as I think both Hovik and Emily alluded, we're both advisors at the Game Lab, and when we're not doing that, as you know, Emily is working with the amazing company of Pokemon, and my day job, if you will, is I teach digital technology and look at the way that technology is really impacting youth today and our culture and society. And a lot of my other research looks at virtual reality. How many of you been to the Game Lab and just kind of check things out? How many of you like put the groovy helmets on? You should try it. I did it in the 90s and we wore like big helmets. So it's changed a lot. But my research has really been in the area of games and health. And so when I found out that the Game Lab was also going to be exploring areas of how to use virtual reality in other ways, such as helping retail and shopping and looking at shopping malls in the spirit of disruptive technology, I thought, well, this would be a great thing for me to put my hat on and see how VR, virtual reality, and augmented reality could be used that way. I also have to say I felt a little guilt-ridden because I'm from the land of, I think we're now called HQ1, which is Amazon's first place. So I did feel sort of guilty that Amazon is usually the one that's seen as one of the crushing reasons that people don't go to shopping malls as much. In light of that, another question for you is, how many people go to shopping malls these days? Ooh, fake, just fake and raise your hands, just pretend. How many of you shop online? At Amazon. That's good. Well, I think that sort of shows a little bit of my point here. In looking at this, I did a sort of a fun facts, as I tell my students, or did you know? Really, when you look at shopping malls in the past, they came into, really started seeing them in the 1950s, and they were designed as indoor shopping plazas, if you will. And they were used to bring together people who lived in the suburbs, who could come together and have this sort of feeling of coming and meeting with friends and families, or what Ray Oldenburg calls the third place. So that's really how they started. In the 50s and probably more in the 80s and 90s, if any of you grew up watching Fast Times at Ridgemont High or Mallrats or Clueless, you saw the impact that mall culture had. Because if you look at malls in the sort of the clinical perspective, it's like long hallways, lots of retail to get people to do impulse shopping. But you can look at it another way, as a real way to bring a social dynamic to our lives. And clearly, when you look at the mall culture of the past, this is where kids came, they dated, they met up with their friends. That was the Friday night, Saturday night weekend. And that's the way malls used to be. But as we've heard, we are seeing a decline in malls, perhaps not as much as we might anticipate, as we learned earlier today, that maybe they're not declining and retail's not declining as quickly as one thinks, although the numbers do show that electronic stores and apparel stores are declining. There's no doubt about it. And if you look at this slide, you can see that, I mean, there are a number of shopping malls that are sort of on the docket to close here. Now again, I'm not going to blame my neighbors totally for this, but I do think that it is starting to, it is an impact, but I don't think it has to be a total impact. I think the other way, we heard a little bit about the millennials, and I think we all sort of have an idea of what a millennial is. I don't know if anyone's really talked about Generation Z. Does anyone know about the Gen Zs? That's kind of the 14 to 19-year-olds. And so you do have a changing customer, you have a changing perspective. If you look at the millennials, they're considered, they use 2 screens really well, while Gen Zs are 5 screens, if you will. But there is a change in this, which I also think is an opportunity because they are more experience driven. And so I think if we can look now as to how experience might be defined, this is where I think some opportunities are. Going back to the slide where I showed the A's and the B's and the C's and the D's, if you will, of malls, what sets the A and B malls apart? Why are some malls not sort of closing? And if you've ever gone on Google Images and looked up dying malls, you'll see horrific photos of, it looks almost like dystopian, you know, apocalyptic views of things. And so this is one of the views. But on the positive side, and probably more to where malls were supposed to be in the past, some shopping malls are actually becoming more innovative, and they're bringing in, they're becoming real focuses, almost mini cities, if you will. People are living in them. Apartments are going in there, fitness clubs and such. I mean, we've probably all seen people that are, you know, got their Fitbit on or their Apple Watch, and they're walking back and forth in the malls for their exercise and such. So malls are being used in different ways, and people are thinking about this. But I look at it because my background is technology, and I think of it as, well, how could technology, how could VR or AR or mixed reality really impact this? And in saying that, I'm not going all you know, Minority Report on you in doing this, but we aren't that far away from some of these kind of aspects. I think when most people think too about, when I say technology, they think, okay, well, we have social media platforms, people are putting images of Instagram up, or they're tweeting pictures of themselves trying different clothes on and such. But there's other ways that we can use technology in this way. So I wanted to just show you a couple examples here to kind of let you see where this might be heading, or where this is heading, really. If you look here at companies, have you been to well, I guess not that many of you have been to shopping malls, but if you went to shopping malls, you would see that Tesla has, in Seattle, they have several showrooms that are in shopping malls. And what they allow you to do there is you can customize your car. You can look at it in their design store, their design lab. And so you can share that with other people. You can take a look at what kind of car, you know, that you want to create. You have other more fashion areas where you can wear virtual reality headsets, and you can be at that runway show that you might not, that you know, you just couldn't make it to New York. So you can experience it that way. You can go to IKEA, you can go to some of these, and you can actually go and see what the couch or what the furniture is going to look like in your room in a virtual space. This drives people to the mall to experience this. Or if you can sort of see up to the left the Spider-Man. Walmart ran a campaign where they allowed kids to, you know, because who doesn't want to like fight Spider-Man? And so you could go into those environments. You could go into the malls because that's the only place that you could find that. So if you think about it, it's actually starting to bring community back in and activities back in. Again, in fashion, you can experience different articles, different outfits. Sephora has an app now that you can go on the web and you can try different makeup, see what it looks like on yourself before you buy it. Go back into the store to buy it, and then the dream app, if you will, if you're a gamer, is to actually create yourself as an avatar that you can try on clothes and such. So these are some of the ways that you're seeing this. North Face has done some interesting work with virtual reality, allowing you to go to those places. You want to buy the hiking gear, well then why not go and see what Kilimanjaro really looks like? And so you can put that on and you can experience that before you go there. It brings a connection and it brings you into another world, if you will. The bottom one is just kind of showing how they were filming it with 360. Since a lot of my time is in the land of entertainment, Star Wars just recently had, are there Star Wars fans in here? Please say there are. Oh, thank you. Star Wars did a campaign, it was in Target, and I think it was in Walmart, in conjunction or in concert with Disney, where you could go into Target and you could look and you could find the characters and such through augmented reality. You could find those there, which is pretty exciting if you're a Star Wars, and I'm certainly waiting for the next movie. Another one is Toys R Us, which has not been doing well. But they started looking at how can we sort of change it up. And so they decided to do more with augmented reality. They created games. They gamified the experience. So you could go and, it's called Play Chaser. You can download the app and you can go into the store. And who doesn't want to have these characters come to life? I mean, that's huge for children, and that brings families in as well. When one thing I was looking at consumers in patterns of malls and such in Asian countries, where yes, they're still buying things online. They're still probably using, well, Alibaba, I think is probably what they're using over there. But they also go to shopping malls, and they go for the community, which kind of goes back to, as I said, what Grun was saying. They go to be with their family. They go to experience that place, that third place, to come together. And what you see in the malls over there is it's entertaining. There's always activities. There's cosplay, and of course there's Pokemon. And how many of you still play Pokemon Go? Come on, I know there's more than that. I still play Pokemon Go. I think what Pokemon Go did was really was a great wake-up call to retailers. I don't know if you know how some people, I think most people think of Pokemon Go, you collect your characters and maybe you battle for a gym. But what you might not have known was the impact that Pokemon Go had for retailers. Retailers were buying lures, putting it in front of their stores. They were attracting people into the stores, into the retail shops by putting them there. Even during the elections, my understanding is that Hillary Clinton, when Get Out the Vote, they found where Pokemon stops were, and they set up shop there so that people would go and then they'd sign up for voting through Pokemon. And these are all technologies. They're actually game technologies that are driving this force. The enthusiasm of folks, particularly in malls I've seen in Asia, is events where hundreds of, thousands of people come together to share that experience, and they play Pokemon, and they embody Pokemon, and they have fun, and it's bringing that space back to what its original thoughts were, its original intent, if you will. Now, I had to show, because I'm at the Drucker School and I actually do have an MBA, I would have been remiss if I didn't do this, and for all of you probably have seen this at some point. But people will say, well, how far are we away from this? Can we really deliver on this? And if you look at this slide, you can see that we're actually getting towards that plateau. Virtual reality is really being seen more often as being accepted. And augmented reality is really right behind it. So it's not just like a pipe dream or a science fiction or something that you've seen in a movie, but it is becoming more real. And I think there's more practical applications of it than you might have originally had thought. Bringing this back to my role as a mentor with the students, I wanted to just kind of show that these are the sort of projects that are being considered by students today in the game lab. I think some of you, if you've been there, you saw the Roblox game, or you saw that earlier, which is amazing. Roblox also has a virtual reality component to it, if you didn't know that, so you can play it in a VR space. Looking at children's-based experiences in shopping malls is something that we're considering looking at, which I think in light of Pokemon Go and Star Wars and Toys R Us, I think that's a really interesting area to go into. We're also, as you know, looking at VR and AR in retirement homes. So we're finding different ways to really bring this technology to light and bring this technology into the lives of the students that we're working with and we're teaching. So just want to let you know that, and thank you very much.